Nash Caldwell had always believed he understood Juniper better than anyone. After 5 years of marriage filled with laughter, storms weathered side by side, and dreams carved out of nothing but determination, he was certain their love was unshakable. He could still see the light in her eyes the moment he asked her to marry him, the tremble in her voice when she said yes. Their life had been built on shared routines, quiet comforts, and unspoken trust, but that illusion fractured on an otherwise ordinary night over dinner in their softly lit kitchen, where the television hummed aimlessly in the background. Juniper, with complete calm, mentioned she had plans to go out with a co-worker on Friday as casually as if she were noting the weather or suggesting a new place to eat. Nash blinked. He waited for some clarification, a reassuring chuckle, a teasing smirk, anything, but all she did was reach for another slice of bread, spread butter across it with meticulous focus, and chew quietly. As if nothing seismic had just passed her lips, he stared at her, his heart stumbling to catch up. For a moment, he convinced himself he must have misunderstood, but the way she avoided his eyes told him otherwise. There was a subtle tension in her posture, an intentional stillness that gave her away. "What?" he asked, his voice disturbingly steady despite the hurricane building inside him. Juniper finally met his gaze, and for the first time, he noticed something unfamiliar in her face, a subtle readiness, a calm calculation. She had rehearsed this. "It's just dinner," she said with an almost breezy tone. "It doesn't mean anything. I love you. This doesn't change our marriage." She said it like a mantra, as if repetition would somehow strip the weight from her words. Nash studied her carefully, hoping to catch some crack in her serene expression, but she remained composed, unbothered, as if she truly believed in the illusion she was trying to sell. His appetite vanished. The meal before him turned to dust, but he refused to give her what she was fishing for. He knew Juniper well enough to understand she was bracing for conflict, waiting for an outburst, a wounded plea, a desperate attempt to assert possession. But Nash was not that predictable. He'd spent years mastering one invaluable skill, restraint. He took a slow, deep breath. Then, as if contemplating nothing more than the taste of his water, he lifted his glass and took a sip. A calm smile touched his lips. "I see," he murmured. Juniper inhaled sharply, barely, but he noticed that tiny hitch confirmed everything. She wasn't looking for permission. She was searching for proof that he still cared, that he would fight. The silence between them expanded, taut and electric. Juniper poked at her food, pretending nothing was amiss. But Nash saw through it. "Well," he said lightly, leaning back in his chair, "maybe I should try the same. Go out with someone, just to see how it feels." The calm on Juniper's face cracked. It was almost imperceptible the way her fingers twitched around her fork, how her lips parted slightly in disbelief, her lashes blinking a little too fast. She scrambled for neutrality. "You've met someone?" He shrugged with disarming ease. "There's a woman at the gym I talk to. Sometimes. Seems nice enough. Thought it might be interesting." The color drained from her face. It was like watching the air shift in a room. The power between them changed hands silently. Instantly, she tried to smile, tried to sound unaffected. "I see." Her voice faltered. Nash studied her like a chessboard. Every small movement told him more than her words ever could. He noticed the anxious way her leg bounced under the table, the way her nails bit into the skin of her palm. "Is that a problem?" he asked, voice like velvet. Juniper laughed, but it was thin, strained. "No, of course not. I just wasn't expecting that from you." He arched a brow, folding his arms with a measured smirk. "Funny, I wasn't expecting this from you. This time." She didn't laugh. The words hung in the air like broken glass, sharp, reflective, impossible to ignore. Juniper tried again, grasping for control. "So who is this woman at the gym?" Nash resisted the urge to grin. He had anticipated this shift. She was no longer pretending this was about exploration or freedom. Her curiosity had become suspicion, and her confidence jealousy. "I'm not sure it matters," he said, dabbing his mouth with a napkin. "If it doesn't affect our marriage, then why should the details matter?" She let out another forced laugh, but her eyes betrayed her. "So it's real. You're actually going out with her." He tilted his head. watching her flinch. "You're the one who suggested we explore this." "I'm just exploring." Juniper opened her mouth, but nothing came. No arguments, no witty quips, only silence. And in that silence, Nash had his answer. She never expected him to say yes. She never thought he would take the bait. More importantly, she never believed she could lose him. He finished his water, set the glass down with quiet finality, and stood. "Good night, Juniper." She didn't respond, just stared, her mouth parted slightly, as though the air had been sucked from the room. In the days that followed, everything changed. Their home, once filled with spontaneous laughter and wordless comfort, became a mausoleum of unsaid thoughts. The silence echoed louder than shouting ever could. Nash maintained his routines. He rose on time, left for work, returned at his usual hour, but the warmth was gone. He moved like a man who had removed himself emotionally, as if something vital had quietly been turned off. Juniper thought it was a phase, that he was bluffing. She expected him to slip, maybe confess that it hurt him, beg for normalcy, but it never came. If anything, he grew calmer, more focused. On a Wednesday morning, she sipped her coffee and watched him in the hallway mirror. The way he adjusted his collar, smoothed his shirt, ran his fingers through his hair. Nothing about the act was new, but something about the energy was. He looked like a man preparing for something exciting, and then he smiled at his phone. That smile stabbed her with something foreign: fear that she might be losing him. She buried the feeling, pretended she didn't care, but it haunted her all day. That evening, as they sat side by side on the couch, the TV flickering unnoticed, she tried to sound casual. "You seem happy." Nash didn't glance her way. "Do I?" "You've been busy," she prodded gently, crossing her legs, keeping her voice light. This time, he turned. His eyes met hers, calm but unreadable. "Yeah," he said simply. "I've been using my time better." A shiver crawled down her spine. Over the next few days, she became a quiet observer. He rose earlier for his runs. His phone buzzed more often. One night, he came home humming a tune she didn't recognize, the scent of his cologne lingering around him like armor. Then Friday came, over breakfast. Nash looked up from his eggs and said, "I'm going out tonight." Juniper froze mid-sip. Her hand trembled slightly. "With who?" she asked, the question falling from her lips like lead. "The woman from the gym." It hit her like a blow to the chest. She opened her mouth, searching for something, anything to say, but nothing came. He was following the rules she had set, and now she wasn't sure she wanted to play anymore. That evening, Nash dressed in a shirt she barely remembered, humming to himself as he sprayed on his cologne. He didn't ask her where she was going, didn't mention her co-worker, didn't even look back when he walked out the door. Juniper didn't leave the house. Her phone buzzed texts from the man she had used to test her husband's love. She ignored everyone. Instead, she sat on the edge of the couch waiting, hoping Nash would change his mind, hoping this was still just a game. But Nash didn't text, didn't come home early. When he finally walked in after 3 a.m., calm and collected, she sat up instantly. "How was it?" she asked, her voice barely a whisper. He hung up his jacket, glanced at her, and replied evenly, "It was good." Just 3 words, but they cut deeper than a confession ever could. She couldn't breathe, wanted him to say it meant nothing, that he hated it. But he didn't offer comfort, didn't apologize. He walked to their bedroom and closed the door. The next morning, he was already up, drinking coffee and scrolling through his phone like it was any other Saturday. Juniper stood in the doorway, her stomach in knots. "You got home late," she said, trying to sound light. "I did," he replied without looking up. Silence wrapped around them like ice. "Nash," she whispered, "what are we doing?" He finally looked at her, quietly, calmly. "You tell me, this was your idea. I didn't think you'd actually go through with it." He chuckled softly without joy. "What did you expect? That I'd beg you to stay?" Tears welled up in her eyes. "I made a mistake. You did." The air grew heavy with everything unspoken. Nash stood, rinsed his cup, then turned back with finality in his voice. "Thank you for showing me who you really are." He walked out. Juniper remained in the kitchen, numb and shaking. When she found the strength to enter the bedroom, What she saw made her knees weaken. Divorce papers, signed. Her breath caught. He was packing, calm, methodical. The zipper of his suitcase sounded like the end of a chapter. "Nash, please," she whispered, stepping forward. Her voice trembled. "This went too far. I forgive you. Let's forget all of this. We can start over. If you forget what I said, I'll forget what you did." He paused. When he looked at her, there was no hesitation, no anger, just clarity. "I don't need your forgiveness, Juniper. You taught me something these past few days. I deserve better." And with that, he grabbed his suitcase, picked up his keys, and walked out. The sound of the door locking behind him was the last thing she heard before the silence swallowed her whole.